What is going on, guys? Welcome back to a new YouTube video, and a new phase is coming to an end. Week 4. This is the recap. We're starting off day 1 with, of course, competition bench, primary bench, and there I was very hesitant to load it up, but I still loaded 160 kilos as planned, despite my pack feeling a bit off. And to be able to do that weight, and as you can see, only on the 5th rep I lost balance a bit mid rep, and then had to press a bit slower to not lose the weight. It was coming a bit forward. Overall, still happy that it moved so well, and also that my pec held up. And as you can clearly see, currently I have to work with maximum wrist extension and also maximum elbow tucking, just to avoid using my pec too much and therefore preserving left pec. Then we move on to day 2. Day 2 is usually my primary squat day, my secondary deadlift day, and some lower body accessories, which we'll get to later. First and foremost, the squat top set looked pretty solid in my opinion. During the block I jumped 10 kilos each week, and I have to say they moved quite well, although to be honest they felt heavy on my back. It may not look like that, but it is. I clearly noticed that this was the first time after 8 months now where I had more than 200 kilos on my back. Obviously, after the surgery, I couldn't load my spine or load my squat and therefore load my spine. So my nervous system and all the other tendons are also not used to having so much weight on the back. It's not really that much, but for me at the moment, it is quite a milestone, and I was happy to get it. And then also same weight for the primary deadlifts. We had a single pause as always. I try to keep my secondary deadlift day quite light, to not interfere with my primary pulls. And I think I'm pretty happy with how the post deadlifts are going, because I had the chance to improve so much over the past few months on positioning, especially in the bottom, slack pulling, trying to see what works, what doesn't work, which position would I stand in, how can I maximally lengthen my arms, how can I use slack pull to my advantage, and also how can I minimize the range of motion, be more efficient, and so on. And I feel like the pull has come a long way. Definitely deadlift has been improving technique wise, and so usually the back offs also help me in the full resets with the cluster sets to really nail in on or hone in the setup and really go over the process of setting up the same every time, and therefore making it a habit rather than a focused exercise on how I want to set up. We also usually have RDLs after that, just to get in the volume, just to work my back without having to continue in that lower section of the movement. So basically the secondary deadlift is split in 2 parts. I have my focus or target within the first part of the range of motion with the pause deadlifts, where I really focus on trying to maximize everything in the starting position, and then you have the second part in the RDLs, where I just basically get in the volume and try and strengthen my posterior chain with a lot of extension. And then we move on to my 2 accessories. And I included them in this video because, in my opinion, they are the absolute game changers when it comes to progressing not only in weights fast after my surgery, but also getting back to being healthy, especially with my knee being a bit weaker still and having to adapt to new stimulus. I feel like the Nordic ham curls, even though the setup here is a bit funky, I have to say the Nordic ham curls are a super hard exercise. And I mean, I still can't do them without a band. And even with a band, I have to use one of the thickest bands that they have in the gym. Also, I want to point out here that the goal should always be to basically be as flat as possible going on the way down, and also remaining extended, especially in the hip, as extended as possible on the way up, which I couldn't even quite manage now after having this exercise in for 2 blocks now. So there's a constant progression going on there, and that's also why I love this exercise, because it's so incredibly hard, but there's so much room for training and really refining the explosiveness, especially in the hamstrings, and it's given me honestly a lot of gains also in my hamstrings. And then the second exercise is clearly also body weight exercise that I'm doing, and it's the sissy squats. Not only do I get a nice pump in my quads, the most important thing in my opinion in this exercise, even though I'm not yet being able to do them fully without assistance or without holding myself on the wall, they are really forcing knees over toes maximally, putting force on my knees, and therefore training my knees in a very uncomfortable position to be strong. You will, or I will at least, never squat like that, because it's first of all not efficient. Second of all, there's no way I can squat big weights in this position. However, I'm trying to train these uncomfortable and maximal range of motions to really enforce strength. Most of the things here I basically take, as you might know, from inspirations such as Knees Over Toes guy, which he does a phenomenal job in providing knowledge and how to get knees healthy. And he's also been one of my main drivers, or one of my main resources for exercise selection, especially post-surgery on my right knee. Then we move on to the last and final day of the week, the 5th day, which starts off with high bar squat 6s. I didn't pause to avoid putting too much force on my knee, because the forces when switching from a eccentric to a concentric are quite high on the knee, so I take them out completely by pausing them, and 6s are a high enough rep range for me to still train my quads and get some hypertrophy out of it. Now on bench, we had 3 count pauses. 3 count pauses are honestly great variation to make myself more comfortable in the bottom of the movement, and especially with me having a lot of leg drive and a lot of tension and a huge arch, it really gives me the opportunity to practice being comfortable and staying comfortable in a very strength consuming position, because it takes a lot of effort to hold up the bridge, and therefore it has been honestly a great primer and a great exercise supplementing my main bench days. And then finally, last but not least, we arrive at deadlifts. Deadlifts, as always, last on my 5th day. So I do my squats first, then my tertiary bench, and then finally I arrive at my primary deadlifts. So this alone is some handicap, but on that day, honestly, it was just not my day. This legit never happens. Like, my hook grip is pretty solid, and on the first rep already, my hook grip slipped and I got pissed. And so the second try was way better. Like, I started off my first rep, then went well. My second rep was a bit shakier, and then I don't know why, but I completely messed up positioning on my third. As you can see, my hip shoots up first, so I have to hardcore use strength to get it up, and this was all strength, no technique on the third, and I get hardcore pissed after the set, because it was just unnecessary how hard the set was, even though the weight alone wasn't even that heavy, you know? And that really made me pissed, and I ended up being pretty sad about that set, because I was looking forward to that deadlift set all week. And honestly, in my opinion, you could see the very first rep, it moved very well off the ground. I was in great position, but the other ones were just not good, and especially the slip from the fingers also costs strength, and it also costs focus. And deadlift is very much a focus-driven lift for me, especially with all the technique hints that I have to follow. Makes it very hard to get into it once you lose it. That being said, guys, really appreciate you watching. I wish you all the love, all the power. Have a good one.